Okay, so I want to give you guys kind of an overview glimpse of what we're going to be doing. I feel like this is really the best angle for me to work at to show you. So we've got all our supplies out that we talked about, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use those supplies to do some of the techniques and things that I teach in my class. So this is another one of the palettes that I actually use in my in-person classes, and this is something you can easily find in a craft store or most anywhere that sells any kind of paints or crafts. So this is a really nice one to get because you've got a lot of spots here where you can pour your paint, and you've got kind of a nice mixing area here. But you can also use something else like just a plate or really anything that's going to repel water. That would work too. So you can have a larger mixing area if you want to have that. So I've got my colors out here. These are some of the ones that I talked about in the supply video, so I kind of want to show you those a little bit more closely. And I've got a couple of different brands to show you. Here's the Daniel Smith. This is the ultramarine blue. They have a French ultramarine blue, and I'm not real sure what the difference is, but this one's just your plain ultramarine blue, and I like theirs a lot. And then a red, just a medium red. This one's a cadmium red from Winsor & Newton. So this is one you can find a lot of different places. And then I just have just a really cheap, like the Fine Touch, which I think is from Hobby Lobby. This is a yellow medium. And when I say medium, what I actually mean by that is that it doesn't go too warm and it doesn't go too cool, so that you have a nice medium color, which is very important for mixing, because if you had a really, really cool, almost green yellow, it's going to look a little weird when you mix it with a red to try to make a true orange. So that's why you want just a nice middle of the road medium yellow and medium red. There's a couple other blues that you could use in place of ultramarine blue, like cerulean blue is a really common one in your typical artist palette. I just prefer ultramarine blue because of the texture that it gives you. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually start painting and using it. All right, and then, so those are your primary colors. And then your secondary colors, obviously when you mix all these three together, you're gonna be able to get orange, green, and violet. So you can buy your primaries, or you can also buy your secondary colors. This was a kit that I got, and I really like all of these colors that came with it. Here's those three. I think I've got this linked on my website, so you can see how much that goes for. It's really inexpensive, actually, so these are great ones to get. So you can get those. And then these are the secondary neutral colors that I suggest. A yellow ochre and a burnt sienna. Now, they look on the label like just kind of an orange and then like a tan color. But when you actually pour them out into your palette and your pan, they're going to look quite different when you use them to mix. So this can almost kind of be like your orange color. And then the yellow ochre is just one that I really like using, and I use it a lot straight out of the tube. And then I also like mixing it as well. And yellow ochre is a little bit of a thicker color, just the way that they make yellow ochre. So this gives you a little bit more of a opaque rather than a really clear, transparent color. The natural sienna from Daniel Smith is what I actually have in place of yellow ochre. This was really, really close match, and I just, I wanted to buy something that was in this brand that I really like, and so that's kind of how I use it. And when you go and you purchase some of these in store, when stores open back up, they will have kind of a sample like this, a picture of what it'll actually show from like the opacity, and so you can get an idea how that looks. So those are the colors that we're going to be using, and I will show you how we're going to pour those out into the palette. So if you come to my class in person, this is kind of what I'm going to be doing for you. So I'm going to pour it just out of the tube there, and you see how little we actually use. It's very concentrated, so you really don't have to use too much. So there's our blue. And then here's the red. My dogs are in here sniffing around. And this pours, this pours out kind of like acrylic paint if you really, kind of look at it. Yellow we're going to use the least, so I'm just going to use a little bit of that. And I'm spacing them out kind of to where I have an extra pan here so that I can mix. A little bit there. You can almost just sort of dot them like that. And then here's the burnt sienna. As long as you keep these closed really nice and tight, they're not going to dry up on you. And they'll last for years and years and years. Now these little ones you're probably going to run out of a little bit quicker than, say, a larger one like this. So it's a little bit more economical to buy the larger ones. All right, so let's get mixing. I have a little visitor over here.
Yeah.
My daughter's here helping me to the side since we're all at home. All right, so I've got this poured. So we're gonna let that dry.
What?
Move that out of the way. We're gonna let it dry.
You got blue.
I do have
red.
red. Yeah, red.
Yellow.
Yes, yellow. She knows her colors.
This is
All right, so we're gonna use,
blue.
we'll use whatever kind of paper you have. I'm gonna use my arches
blue.
just so I can show you how it works on that. And I'm gonna tear it out. Tear it okay.
I'm gonna make a mummy. I'm gonna make a mummy
You wanna do a mermaid?
for mommy.
For mommy. Oh, that's sweet.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're gonna tape it down first. So I use this board here, which is, I think I got this at a craft store, but you can use foam core, you can use a piece of cardboard, or you can just tape it directly down to your table. But I like having it on something separate, that way I can move it around. I'll show you why. So I'm using my tape and I'm just gonna tape down
The paper.
the paper. Yeah, I'm gonna tape down the paper.
You ready?
I'm gonna do about 50% on the paper
I
and
do
then
it. I do it.
50% on the board here. So we're gonna tape all four sides down.
I do it.
Here, you hold that. And then this is to help with keeping your paper nice and steady.
Say.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now do that.
You hold that piece. Hold that piece for me.
Let's go right here.
We'll put this piece on it. This is also great for creating nice clean edges.
And there was, and this was.
That one? Yeah.
This one. Yeah.
All right, so if I'm gonna be doing a full-size portrait, this is pretty much what I do, is I tape this down, and of course I measure sort of, the length and the width as to what someone's gonna be ordering. And it's an 8x10 or 11x14. And so now what we're gonna do is create
I hold this for
4 squares
We'll hold this.
by taking another piece of tape,
Would you hold this?
going straight down the middle, and then one all the way across.
You will be a mermaid?
Mm-hmm.
A mermaid?
You want to paint a mermaid?
And you get windows.
Yeah, it looks like a window. That's exactly what it looks like. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have 4 different squares that we're gonna work with. And I'll kind of show you. This is kind of an example of why I do the tape, is so that I can have 4 different areas to paint from. And I use most of my paper when I do that, so it's very important.
Paint this.
All right, now that we have our paper taped down,
Okay.
we're gonna actually start mixing our colors. All right, so now that we've got our paper taped off, we're ready to actually start using our paint. So a lot of people think they're just gonna be able to kind of dip right into that paint there and use it, but this is going to be kind of our starting point for our paint, and we're going to be using this area actually right here. So I'm going to take my round brush because it's a little bit larger, and if you can kind of see how I'm using that as a dropper, you can see a kind of a little puddle of water in here. This is really what we're going to be using to paint with. In watercolor, you really paint with water, and you use this paint to actually tint the water. So you see now our water has changed colors, and you can take just a tiny bit on that brush there. And the more paint that you add to your water, the more concentrated it's going to be. But this is really what you want to use to paint from. This is, you know, wet paint straight out of the tube, but if it was to, you know, sit down and dry, we would have to use water to reactivate it. So this is really not that much different than using a dry palette. So you can kind of see how much looser that is compared to this. Now you can pull directly from this if you need something very concentrated and you need to tap that into a certain area, which I'll show you how to do that. But this is really what we're going to be using right here, is this little droplet.